Good morning, and welcome to All People's Church Unitarian Universalist. We were formerly called First Jefferson Church, and since we voted to change our name last May, we are slowly but surely taking steps to implement and get used to and get the word out about our new identity. It takes some getting used to, but I like our new name very much. And I think it reflects the welcoming congregation that we strive to be. My name is Mary Kerwin, and I am serving as your worship leader today. Our service is a little bit different in that we'll be presenting a pre-recorded video sermon from Reverend Erin Walter of the Texas UU Justice Ministry. We'll not be having a children's story because the kids and youth are involved in their Splash Day fun activities. After the service, we'll gather in Coleman Hall for our monthly First Sunday potluck luncheon. Everyone is welcome to stay for potluck, even if you did not bring a dish to share. I have a few announcements for you before we continue on with worship. First is from Rosalind Hunter. A month from today, on October 2nd, after potluck, we'll have our first adult Our Whole Lives OWL training. This is a standalone session. It is 2.5-hour sessions about attitudes and aging. Sign-ups are in the lobby. And from Jane Collins, the postcard party never ends. Jane Collins will host another postcard party in Jagger's Parlor to UU the Vote, that is Unitarian Universalist Getting Out the Vote, in November. Check it out after you eat today. And now I have a little bit to tell you about our virtual guest speaker. Reverend Erin J. Walter serves as the Minister and Executive Director for the Texas Unitarian Universalist Justice Ministry, which is our UU State Action Network. Erin was the winner of the 2017 Sermon Award from the UU Women's Federation, and she is a former YMCA director. Erin is the singer, songwriter, and bass player for the band Parker Woodland, and she also teaches dance as a joy practice. Erin is the affiliated community minister of Wildflower UU Church in Austin. You can find more about her music and ministry at erinwalter.com and parkerwoodland.com. We'll settle into a moment of music with our musical prelude. Thank you, Misha. Always lovely. Our call to worship today. Come down off the ladder. Wash out that paintbrush. Shake the sand out of your shoes. Get up off your muddy knees and give the garden a morning off. Fold up the newspaper, turn off the coffee pot. Close up your calendar, already filled with dates and times and people and places that claim you. This church is ready for you to fill its rooms, to create its spirit, to generate its warmth, to kindle its lights. This church is ready for you to make community, to create beauty, to bend it towards justice, to serve its ideals. This church is ready for you to be here, honoring our past, invigorating our present, and dreaming our future. This is your church. Here we are home. Here we are whole. Let us begin. Please stand for our chalice lighting, our opening hymn, and our spoken words of affirmation. The flame within the chalice is the primary symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith tradition. We light this chalice, symbolic of the warmth of community and the brightness that love brings to the world, illuminating our search for justice and peace, light that forces, that nurtures all living things, here in our midst in this flame, so tiny and so significant. And now please join in singing our opening hymn, number 357, Bright Morning Stars. Bright And please follow along with our spoken affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. Please be seated. We know that our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work. We are so grateful for this and commit together to ensure the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and our world than they could have done alone. May there be an offering to sustain and grow the life and the mission of this congregation. May we give in love and in hope. As is our custom, we share the undesignated cash offerings of our plate. Our Share the Plate recipient this quarter is the Eastside Community Assistance Agency. Will the ushers please come forward? Thank us, choir. A reading this morning is when we think about the importance of showing up for justice, there is much historical context we can hold in mind. Our reading is from The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. When Sam is confronted by Frodo about giving up, he says, "It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo, the ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger they were. And sometimes you didn't want to know the end, because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing, this shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come, and when the sun shines, it will shine out clearer. Those were the stories that stayed with you, that meant something, even if you were too small to understand why. But I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. I know now. Folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't. They kept going because they were holding on to something. That there is some good in this world, and it's worth fighting for." We'll now join in singing our hymn number 112, "Do You Hear?" We honor our time together with the shared stories and news from the congregation. Each week there is a journal outside the entrance to the sanctuary where you can write a message of memory or hope, announce a milestone, honor or share news about your friends and loved ones. Also, at any time during our service, you are welcome to come forward and light a candle in our meditation center here to my left at the side of our chancel. We're reminded of the many people in the world who are burdened by sickness, hunger, and pain, by sorrow and anxiety, by violence and loss. We pause this morning to share our concern and care for these people, and also for those closer to home about whom we are concerned. From our book of memory and hope, we include the following stories. We extend our sympathy to former member and friend of All People's Church, Brenda Jones Burkett, whose husband Bob Burkett died on August 28th at their home in Fort Worth. Our friend Carissa Birch continues to recover in the hospital and sends her thanks to the congregation and choir members for their support and well wishes. She looks forward to the day that she can return to church, hopefully in the not too distant future. And from our journal this morning, Judy and Patrick Gutierrez didn't exactly celebrate their 60th wedding anniversary of August 30th, 1962. They went to the dentist and then home for a nap. And I was just told that Sherry's husband's birthday is today, so I'd like to say happy birthday to Sherry. Oh, tomorrow, she says. Okay. And may the warmth of this community extend to all who are rejoicing or hurting in our wider world. The stories that live in this community are cherished, even when unshared, as we keep one another in mind during the coming week. We now ask you to pause for a few moments of quiet meditation to hold and uplift both the celebrations and the sorrows among us. And with the help of our tech desk, we'll now view the pre-recorded sermon by Reverend Erin. I believe that it was created earlier this summer in the July 4th time frame, but her message is still relevant for us today on Labor Day weekend.
Good morning. The feminist scholar Carol Myers has said that Exodus may be the most important book of the Bible, and I think it is to me. This morning, I'd like to start by reading a piece from Exodus from the edition of the Bible that I use, the Poverty and Justice Bible. As the executive director and minister of your Texas Unitarian Universalist Justice Ministry, our state action network, I'm always wanting to find moments of scripture, of music, of the sacred that speak to our work for justice. This edition of the Bible I found out about from the Reverend Dr. William Barber, the leader of Moral Mondays in North Carolina and of the Poor People's Campaign. So, this piece has only deepened in importance to me over the years, and I invite you to connect with it in whatever way is authentic to you and your lived experience being one of the sources of our faith as Unitarian Universalists. This comes from Exodus chapter 16, verses 19 through 22. After the Israelites had walked safely through on dry ground, Miriam, the sister of Aaron, was a prophet, so she took her tambourine and led the other women out to play their tambourines and to dance. Then she sang to them. Miriam, the sister of Aaron, was a prophet, so she took her tambourine, led the other women out to play their tambourines and to dance. Then she sang to them. Now, this is the story of enslaved people on a long, hard journey from their captives through the desert to the promised land. And while each of us in our lived experience may be able to relate to this in different ways, we may come from people who enslaved others. We may come from people who were enslaved. It may be both. It may be none. It may be that we feel ourselves in the desert on a long journey toward liberation. However you connect with it. When I first heard this passage, what spoke to me as a musician, as a female minister, was this idea that we had a female prophet leading people in hard times through music and dance. And that was a hallelujah moment for me. Representation is really important in this work, in this world. And so one of my prayers for you is that you may see yourself represented in the places and the things that are so important to you. In the pandemic, it has felt like a journey through a desert, through a very difficult time, hoping that we would see greater access, greater accountability, greater collective liberation on the other side, whenever we may get to whatever another side of this time might be. One of the words in this passage that I love is so. And we know that Bibles are translated differently over time, but I love that in this poverty and justice version of the Bible, it says, Miriam, the sister of Aaron, was a prophet, so she took her tambourine. Not she was a prophet, but she had a tambourine. Not she was a prophet, oh, and they tolerated her tambourine. She was a prophet, so she took a tambourine. That music, that dance, that joy, that hope was part of her prophetic life. And here's the piece that has really come to my heart and soul recently. Think about it. People preparing to escape from their captors in the night, how quietly they would have had to move. And yet the women chose to bring tambourines. The care they must have taken, the commitment in this story to joy, that the hope that a tambourine would be played somewhere, sometime, and that in what must have been small packs. They couldn't have carried much on this long journey through the desert. Rather than saving every space for food or for water, the women saved space for joy, for dancing, for music, that hope. That is what it is to be a person of faith in that story, to have faith that your needs would be provided for, that there was room to bring joy. That is a lot of talking about that story, but there is so much in 4 lines that gives me hope in these times. Now, I want to ask you to think about something. What is the thing that you need to pack for this life to get through the things that are hard? What is your tangible sense of joy, of hope, of nourishment, that all will be provided for, the faith that collective liberation is coming? What do you have in your pack? What are you bringing with you on this life's journey? For me, it is almost quite literally a tambourine. Music, dance. I teach a dance class that's akin to Zumba for UUs all around the world and community members all around the world every Friday morning. And no matter what, I'm dancing. When the news came down about the Supreme Court's decision that basically nullified Roe v. Wade, my phone, as the executive director of the Justice Ministry, was blowing up 15 minutes before I had to lead folks in dance. And I had no choice in that moment. I suppose I did have a choice, but to me, there is no choice. Spiritual practice, joy, community, showing up for each other, no matter what. So 15 minutes after that devastating news, I was dancing, and it was good. It got me through. My spirit was good all day. And I mean, that does not mean that it wasn't horrible news. We saw it coming, and still horrible news. But we need our spiritual practices to keep showing up, to keep being part of this work, to keep being there for each other, to say to each other, the work of collective liberation, the work of justice, the work of Unitarian Universalism, of spiritual community, of the 8th principle that many of our congregations are adopting about accountability, about multicultural community building, about anti-racism and dismantling systems of oppression. That work is generations of work. Not just our lifetime of work, generations of work. I think often of the song I Am Willing by Holly Near, who also wrote We Are a Gentle, Angry People, that's in our hymnal. But in my band, Parker Woodland, I often sing I Am Willing in our shows, in our community events. There is a line, it dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. And what it's saying is that to give up hope would dishonor the ancestors, would dishonor those people who fought for Roe v. Wade, who fought for civil rights, who have fought for marriage equality, who have fought for this earth, for all of our principles. It would dishonor them. It would dishonor all of this sacred faith tradition we have, were we not to keep fighting. So I ask you, as the director of your Unitarian Universalist Justice Ministry, what spiritual resources are you packing for the journey to make sure that you have what it takes to stay in it? This is a hard time. This is a really hard time emotionally for many of us. Another one of the resources that I'm packing is community and the support and the nourishment that I get from the different groups of people that I roll with. So today, you may not be feeling it right now because I put on my bright colors and I summoned the spirit that I want to be in this world. But I've actually had a few very hard days, and today has really been the pinnacle of it. And so before I sat down to speak with you, wishing I could be with you in person, but before I sat down to speak with you, I thought about who I wanted to hold close to me. And so I'm wearing my UU the Vote t-shirt. So one of the sources of joy and commitment in my life is knowing that I'm a part of something bigger, that we are all a part of something bigger, that UUs all around the country are working to fight racist gerrymandering and voter suppression and the threats to democracy. So I want to invite you to keep that image of dancing in the desert, of singing and playing a tambourine. And remember that at the Texas UU Justice Ministry, we are seeking to bring that joy into our work as well. And I want to invite you to be part of it. I'd be remiss if I didn't say first, I want to thank you for the ways that you've already been part of it. Thank you for your congregation's support. Thank you for the folks who have shown up as volunteers, to those of you who are sustaining givers every month. We so appreciate your support. We are working to hire a community organizer. We are working to get our digital communications and activism up to date and really working for us to organize UUs all around the state. We've learned from this time of pandemic that we don't just show up at the Capitol, though we will. In winter 2023, we will be back at the Capitol, and I really want to see you there. Please, please make the commitment to yourself today that when you hear from TXUUJM that it's time to go to the Capitol for Lobby Day, for Legislative Action Day, that you're coming. We want you there. And showing up in person every couple years for the ledge is not all we're going to do by any stretch. We know from my predecessor, Reverend Chuck Freeman, how important it is to show up in activism in your community day in, day out. We are doing that also, though, on Zoom now. So there's the things that you're doing in your frontline community, but the Justice Ministry is also gathering folks every week for what we call Action Hour over Zoom. And so that makes it accessible to all of us to build community as justice seekers around the state. We get together, we get on Zoom, and we take a few actions together that are laid out by the volunteer leaders, and they reflect our focus areas at TXUUJM. And as Unitarian Universalists, they're guided by our principles. They're voted on by you. The congregations voted on racial justice, healthcare access, climate justice, and several others. You can find a lot more at txuujm.org. Again, that's txuujm.org, and on our Facebook. So I'd like to invite you to join us in that. The organization is in a place of study leave right now and rest before we resume in August. So I would love to see you there. One of the things I'm reading on study leave is Incantations for Rest. Can you see that? By Atina O. Danner. It's poems, meditations, and other magic, and I really, really recommend it. I've also been reading We Cry Justice. This is reading the Bible with the Poor People's Campaign. And what this book does is it gives us nuggets, again, related to poverty and justice, so that those of us who are Unitarian Universalists but seek to be in multiracial, multi-faith, interfaith activism out in the world, which is how we're going to get it done, y'all. It's how we're going to get it done. That we connect with what is a key source for many people, Scripture. And so if you're someone who grew up with the Bible and it was used against you, this may be a place to find some healing. If you're someone like me who grew up Unitarian Universalist with almost no Bible, this is a place to get some spiritual literacy and connection. So we have a group every Thursday night from 6:30 to 7 p.m. with the Poor People's Campaign on Zoom that is reading this book together little by little and discussing and deepening our commitment to the work of justice and addressing poverty in our systems. Should we breathe together? I know that's a lot. The Justice Ministry has been around for 10 years. I celebrate all of you who've been involved. I thank you for the chance to speak with your congregation. I hope I get to see you on Zoom and in person. And I hope that you will find those tambourines in your life, that spiritual sustenance that keeps you nourished. I hope that, like us, you will rest when you need to rest. Develop a rhythm of action, reflection, rest, and nourishment. Action, reflection, rest, and nourishment. When you're part of a community of justice seekers like TXUUJM, you can always trust that the work that you're doing doesn't need to be everything. It can't be everything. But if you do your part, you're part of something much bigger. We are bending the arc of Texas toward justice, and we're doing it together. With that, I would like to share with you a few words from a few other folks, and then I have a little song. Reverend Chuck Freeman, my predecessor, told me recently, stay strong, keep up the fight. He said that the way we are going to win in the things that we are working on is by being committed and organized, that the successes that have happened in other states like Arizona and Georgia did not happen overnight. Those were decades of work, and that is work we are going to do. I also asked our Texas U Justice Ministry rep, Carrie Stewart, Carrie, what lessons she took away from our General Assembly. And she gave me these two to share with you. From Ibram Kendi, take back our power. And from Jason Hicks, who is from UU The Vote, organize, organize, organize. I invite you to think about how to take back our power as people of faith, as Unitarian Universalists working for justice. I invite you to organize in your congregations and your communities and to tell the Texas U Justice Ministry what you're doing so we can lift it up and amplify it. And then last but not least, the song that has been on my heart, that has been like a tambourine for me, is Wo Ya Ya from our hymnal. Kimberly Davis, one of my colleagues, and this is why the name Kimberly came out of my mouth a moment ago. Kimberly Davis writes about music from our hymnal. And Reverend Davis says this about Wo Ya Ya. Written by Ghanaian drummer Sol Amarifio, Wo Ya Ya is the title song of a 1971 album by Osibisa, a musical group of Ghanaian and Caribbean musicians. It was frequently heard in work camps throughout Central West Africa in the 70s and 80s. When I said yes to this call to ministry with Texas U Justice Ministry, this song came to my heart over and over again. I would walk my dog out in Bastrop where I live, and I would just sing it to myself. I wonder if you have a song like that from our hymnal. I would love to know what it is. Here's mine. We are going, heaven knows how we are going, but we know within, and we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, we are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. May we get there together. May we sing and dance along the way. May we be in this justice-seeking, shared liberation work for our lifetime and many to come. Blessed be.
Well, Reverend Erin got us warmed up. I hope you can stand and join in singing our closing hymn, number 1020, with Misha's accompaniment, Wo Ya Ya. We are going, We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our benediction, Holy and Generous Love by Elena Westbrook. Go in hope, for the arc of the universe is long, and we can bend it towards justice. Go in courage, for together we have the strength to comfort injustice in our daily lives and the larger world. Go in love, because a holy and generous love is both the reason and the means by which we transform our lives. The service has ended. Please stay and join us in Coleman Hall for our potluck luncheon. We may need to check and make sure that the kitchen crew's ready.